Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters and guests. My name is Kyle Bickler. I'm going to do something a little differently than I had planned for a couple reasons. I don't have a magic squirrel, so that would be very nice. Going through this topic was a bit challenging because there's a lot of information out there, and I'm not sure how much people know about things like money printing. And usually when people hear that, I don't know what people think. Do you envision a printing press and just cash, pallets of cash being spent, or not really sure? So I would like to start by raising 5 questions that I think are important to all of our financial futures. And I'd also like some feedback or interaction if you're comfortable. So I'll first, if you don't mind, I'd like to put 5 questions up on the board so that you'll be able to follow along. The first one is, why print money and keep interest rates low? Everyone knows right now we're at historic low interest rates ever since 2008. How is this supposed to work? What are the benefits? Question marks. And what can go wrong? And probably the most important question, what can we do about it? First, I want to point out that no one really knows how this paper money experiment is going to turn out. The mainstream media will tell you this and tell you that, and it'll make no sense. Politicians rarely will tell you what they really think because they might lose their job. So that brings us to what we can do ourselves, to look at the data, use common sense, study history, and try to figure out what we think is going to happen, what could happen. So the first question I'd like to ask all of you, if you know the answer, why do you think countries print money? Why is the United States printing money right now to the tune of $85 billion per month? Anyone know?
Increase supply?
Increase supply, great. And increasing supply of money does what for the economy? Stimulates the economy. Great. People borrow more, hopefully to invest, to hire more people, businesses will grow, and the economy will begin to start growing again. The first reason that they said we need to print $800 billion all at one time, back in 2008, was to start to stave off deflation. The world was contracting very rapidly because the banking system was frozen, the credit markets were frozen, all because risky bets were made and everyone got involved all around the world. A daisy chain of financial securities were beginning to implode. No one knew who had the worst assets on their books, so the government said, we just have to put out a lot of money out there so everyone feels good about things and hopefully make things better. How is it supposed to work? Well, I covered a little bit of that, but I want to give you an analogy that is sort of the mainstream analogy that the chairman of the Federal Reserve speaks to at his monthly meetings. Basically, think of the economy as a car, and the driver is the central bank. And when they press on the gas pedal, that's basically printing money. Keeping interest rates low, presses on the gas pedal, tries to get the car going forward, tries to get the economy to expand. What we have seen over the last 5 years is the car is just stalled because of the headwinds of still a lot of financial issues in the market. There's still a lot of things that are unresolved that weren't allowed to clear out in 2008. So we've still got all these headwinds pushing on that car, and they're just pushing on the gas, printing, spending. What do you think they can do to stop that car? What's the method to stop that car if it actually starts going? Does anyone know?
Raise interest rates.
Yes, perfect. So that's their tool. Raise interest rates, that basically applies the brakes, that will slow down the economy. So those are their tools. They can step on the gas, step on the brake. Pretty limited. Now that the Fed has been pressing on the gas pedal since 2008, with zero interest rates and quantitative easing programs, they've printed to the tune of $4 trillion. Okay. The United States economy is worth $17 trillion each year. That's the gross domestic product, GDP. So we printed about 25% of the U.S. economy in the last 5 years. There's not a whole lot to show for it, but here's what it's supposed to do. Here are the benefits. Lower the borrowing costs for all, including the U.S. government. Keep interest rates low. Keep borrowing and spending on the U.S. credit card at 2 or 3% interest, which is very low compared to what normal interest rates would be, which is around 7 or 8%. Businesses can expand and hire. That will lower unemployment. Here's another big one. Banks can offload their toxic mortgage-backed securities, which is what caused the debt crisis to begin with back in 2008. So the Federal Reserve is printing money to buy up securities in the open market that no one knows what they're worth. They're very daisy-chained mortgages that were repackaged, defaulted. No one really knows exactly what they're worth. But they're now on the public's balance sheet. So think about that one. The idea with printing money and creating inflation is that it will allow us to pay back our bills with devalued dollars. So if you owe $100,000 on your mortgage and you're paying 3.5% on the interest rate, and the inflation all of a sudden goes up to 7-8%, it's like free money. Ideally, you have to get paid more though. Your wages have to increase to keep up with inflation, and that's what we haven't been seeing. We're seeing slow amounts of inflation and wages actually falling. So, going back to my questions before I go off track too far, what's wrong with the little money print? Come on, it's good, right? More money for all, we can spend more. These policies have never been tried on a global scale. They've had little impact after 5 years. And continuous spending will only hurt savers and baby boomers that are due to retire and rely on earning some amount of interest in their savings accounts. We don't know how long it's going to be before we actually start to earn money on our savings accounts. Simply stopping these programs could create major disruptions in the market. We saw it just over the summer when they talked about tapering the quantitative easing programs. Interest rates went up, and it was all because they said we might take away the punch bowl. We might pull back on printing currency. The other risk is that market participants may eventually realize that holding U.S. debt just doesn't pay. The world begins to de-Americanize away from U.S. dollars, and the dollar loses its status as the world's reserve currency. If that happens, the party will be over for the U.S., and it'll go the way of the British pound and currency before that and the currency before that. If you look at monetary history, there's always a reserve currency, but it never lasts forever. So it's kind of scary. What can we do about it? Well, honestly, there's not a whole lot, but we can wake up. We can start paying attention to what's going on. We can stop voting for politicians that promise free stuff. There's no such thing as free when the U.S. credit card picks up the tab. It's not free. As a society, we have to realize that we can no longer live beyond our means. Take advantage of low interest rates now to get out of debt. Begin accumulating assets that do well during times of high inflation. Talk with your financial advisors and do not settle for a complacent answer that this debt crisis and future inflation is nothing to worry about. Prior to the last 40 years, gold and silver have been money for the previous 5,000 years. Will we ever go back to some form of gold standard? Some think so, some don't think so. Precious metals, physical precious metals, not paper derivatives, can be used as an insurance policy. Owning physical metal allows you to truly store the fruits of your labor in a way that is no one else's liability. I hope I haven't totally freaked you guys out. I'd be happy to talk more if anyone else is interested, but that's all I have for today.